Hello all, welcome to another endgame study of the Solving Hard Studies to Improve Chess Calculation series. This comes from Evgeny Kolesnikov. I find this position very interesting. I also think that you are going to enjoy it a lot. As always, I suggest you watch the guide if you haven't, so you are better prepared for the practice. The 10-minute countdown will start, and then I catch you up again with the begin of the guided solution. And here we are, and the first good move is to go with the knight c6 check exclamation mark. This is a forced line and the only one that works to go for the win. Of course, the position is not that hard to understand. Very fast we see, okay, black has a very dangerous pawn threatening to promote, and because the only dark square ahead is d2 and our bishop is also on the dark square, we need to go very fast to control the pawn, and of course we can't maneuver the knight also to help immediately. Let's say, for example, if we go directly with the bishop, this just allows the black king to take our knight, and so bishop and pawn against bishop and pawn is going to be an easy draw, so not problem for black, of course. And if we bring the knight with the idea, okay, let's go and control the other promotion square, well, this of course doesn't work because the pawn just advances, and when the knight goes to control it, it's just lost. So it's black, it's going to win. So the first move, I think it's very obvious. We need to go with a check, and so force the king to move before going on for the win. Of course, the king coming to b7, it's just giving white more tempo. So the knight attacks the king again. Let's come here so we can control the d2 square. And now it's game over for black. We just place the knight in front of the pawn. Even if the bishop attacks our knight, well, we can protect it from the other side. If the king comes to help, well, the knight can just goes to anywhere. The promotion of the pawn is already controlled, and then we just push our pawn and go for a win. So the only good move for black, and one that is more challenging, is to go to the corner. So not allowing white to win any tempo on our black king. So it's white to play, the pawn is threatening to advance. Now we have two options: either go to one side to control the d2 square, but of course going to h6, it's easy to see that doesn't work, because not only the bishop helps the pawn to advance to d2, but it also is in a position to cut our knight, which forces, for example, the knight to move, and then we just push the pawn as black, and so we get this easy draw. Of course, now the bishop will try to grab this pawn, sacrifice, but it's not possible anymore for white to win from here. So we need to go to the other side. So we go to b4. Now it's black to play, and of course black checks the king. And now 1 more minute, pause if you need more, and find the best continuation for white from here. And the only way to go for a win is to move the king to c8. This is the only possible move. How can we find the right move over here? Of course, we are under check. Let's say, for example, we go with the knight protecting the check. Well, this just allows the bishop to come to g5 and control the advancing of the pawn. Next move, of course, it's going to be the pawn advancing and forcing the bishop to take, and we take back. We already saw that. So if the king moves, let's say, for example, to d7, well, this is going to be the same. We just push the pawn and force white to sacrifice the bishop. And the same goes if the king goes to c7. So any move either that is not king c8, is we are just going to do this as black, and so the defense gets a draw very easy. But okay, we already saw that the king goes to c8. The main line is going to be bishop g5, but we still need to see a very interesting line that black has over here. Let's say black goes with bishop c3, what a strange move over here. But in fact, this is very interesting. The bishop, of course, accepts, and now the pawn advances with the idea, of course, if we take the pawn with the bishop, notice that on the other side, the black king can't move, it's not under check, so it would get a draw by stalemate. So it's white to move, another minute for you, pause if you need more, and find what is the correct way for white to win in this variation. And over here, the idea is pretty smart. So we need to reach with our knight the key b5 square. So we can do it in both ways. We can go with knight a7. So if the king takes, well, we can grab the pawn because the king is free and so can move, and then we just maneuver to promote the other pawn. So this is not the hardest one. Of course, the same goes if we go with d4. The idea is going to be similar, and the idea is going to be, okay, the pawn promotes to the queen, and now we get the knight into this key, very brilliant maneuver, b5 square. So now it's black to play. Of course, black can maneuver only the queen. Notice that the king is under the situation of not being able to move. But of course, the queen can't find anywhere to go. Let's say it goes to d3. Now the idea is pretty smart. We check the king with the knight c7, so the king now moves to a7, and now we sacrifice our bishop with bishop d4. Notice that because it's check and the king can't move anywhere else, it would be checkmate if not for the fact that the queen, of course, can take our bishop, but then we can fork it and then grab the queen, and after this, of course, we are going to promote the pawn and win this one. Very smart move from white to save the game in this variation. The other line, okay, that we need to check is, of course, to go with the bishop g5. Now it's easier to understand the next move from white. We have just went through this kind of idea. We just go with the knight to d4, the pawn advances, and now, of course, we are going to place the knight on b5. So we already saw the idea. We are intending to check the king moves, and then we just checkmate it with our bishop. Of course, now that happens if, of course, black promotes. If black promotes, this just allows us to free play to the checkmate, but of course black won't do that. It's going to play bishop e3, so to control the diagonal where our bishop could deliver checkmate. Of course, now it's white to play again, so we need to go with the main one, which is to go with knight c3, because if we go knight c7 over here, we just get this situation where we need to repeat, so no progression over there. So we need to go knight c3, controlling the promotion of the pawn. Now it's black to play again, and black plays this very interesting idea, sacrificing the bishop. Of course, if we accept the bishop, this is the line that we need to check. Black will just promote to the queen. Notice that we can't accept the queen because on the other side, black king is without move, so we would get a draw by stalemate. Now the knight comes to b5, so the idea we already know, but let's see if you can find out how black can go from here to a draw. It's black to play another minute, and black gets a draw from here. And black can go for a draw with a very interesting sacrifice of the queen d6. Now, whatever move white does that it's trying to go at least not for the defeat is going to deliver. If we take with the bishop, the king is not under check, can't move. It's a draw by stalemate. If I take with the knight, again the same situation. And if I don't accept the sacrifice, of course the queen is going to start to move, and it's going to be black which is playing for a win. So a very smart idea from black, offering the sacrifice of the bishop and then sacrificing the queen to get a stalemate draw. So we need to avoid this, so we go with the bishop to a5, but of course black is just going to repeat. So final moment for you, another minute. Find how can white win finally from this situation. And yes, to win from here, it's different from getting the bishop on c5, because here we can accept the bishop, because on the other side we are going to get the queen. Okay, we already were counting on that. Of course, we can't accept because it would be a stalemate, so we go with the knight b5, and now whatever move the queen does, it's going to be a win for white. Of course, now the threat is to go with the knight to c7, checking and checkmate on this situation. So the queen probably goes with the same idea, going to d6. Of course, I'm not going to take the queen, otherwise it's going to be a stalemate. So I need to go ahead with the knight going to c7, checking the king. Now, of course, the queen sacrifices itself. I can't accept it with the king because I would get another draw by stalemate, but taking with the bishop allows us to go and win this one, because now the king will move, and after that we just bring our pawn to a queen and checkmate it on the end. Hope you have enjoyed. This was very entertaining for me, and I hope for you too, and I catch you up with future videos. Bye bye and keep checking.